What's going on, everybody? It's AG here. Week 6 is in the books, so you know what that means. It's time for Week 7 of my AG poll. Alright, so with that out of the way, before we get completely started here, though, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button down below for me. Post movie content, post sports content, post gaming content. So if that's something you might be interested in, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button for me as well. And comment your top 25, your top 10, whatever you want to comment down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on mine. Let me know yours. All right, so with that out of the way, let's get started. I had a couple teams out of my top 25 this week that were in it last week. Starting off with Kentucky. Kind of got manhandled by Georgia. Then my other team that dropped out, Miami. Let's go on this rant here for a little bit. Let's talk about that. How do you lose this game? Miami, if you didn't watch, they're up. The game is over. They've got the ball with about 30 seconds left. Third down. Georgia Tech has no timeouts. They're up by 3. Miami is. All you got to do is take a knee. They run the ball. Fumble the ball. Georgia Tech recovers. Goes 70 yards in 25 seconds with no timeouts. Wins the game. I don't know who called that play. If it was the offense coordinator, if it was Cristobal, whoever it is needs to be fired. That's a joke. It's embarrassing. How are you college football coach and you don't realize that you need to take a knee there? I mean, Pee Wee football players can recognize, hey, game's over, let's take a knee. But that's why you take a knee right there. You run it, fumble it. That's what happens. That's why you take a knee, and they lost. They deserve to lose for calling that play. But that rant's over. Sorry, let's get to the top 25. So, number 25 here this week, we have West Virginia making their first appearance in my top 25 for me. And there's two teams, obviously, like I said, making their first appearance. They're one of them. West Virginia only loss this year is to Penn State. Not a bad loss whatsoever. Kind of in the top 3 or 4 in the Big 12 right now. Texas and Oklahoma are obviously the top 2 probably, but they're up there. So, yeah, West Virginia looking pretty solid. We'll see once they get into Big 12 play how they fare out. All right, so these next 4, 24 through 21, we got Oregon State, Washington State, UCLA, Utah. I've got all these 4 here because all 4 of these teams have beat each other. And I figure the longer the Pac-12 goes on, they're all just going to beat each other, and that's probably what will happen. The most potential here, in my opinion, is Utah. If they can somehow get Cam Rising back, they're a top 10 team, in my opinion. But until that happens, I'm going to have these 4 in a bunch for now because, like I said, they all beat each other. It's kind of hard to place them when one team beat this team, another team beat this team. So, for right now, I got all 4 of them right here. 20, we have Missouri. Missouri almost actually came out with a win this week against LSU. It was a close game. They look pretty solid, Missouri. Their Kansas State win doesn't look as good now because Kansas State lost to Oklahoma State this week. But Missouri, number 20. 19, I got a couple of 2-loss teams right here. But 19, I've got Clemson. They didn't look good this week, but I still think they could beat any team below them that I have right now. They don't have a bad loss. They lost to Florida State, lost to Duke, and almost beat Florida State, and they played pretty bad against Duke. So Clemson haven't looked too good this season so far, but I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the year if they're in the top 10. 18, we got LSU. Similar, they have 2 losses right now, Florida State and Ole Miss. Haven't looked too impressive. They kind of got manhandled by Florida State, but Jayden Daniels is playing like a Heisman contender right now. He doesn't really have any help, but he's playing his butt off right now. 17, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, kind of similar to usual Ole Miss. They're going to beat who they should beat. They're going to lose to who they shouldn't beat. So I'll see that happening with them probably all year. They lost to Alabama, but they should beat the majority of the teams on their schedule though. 16, Maryland. They were in my top 25 last week. Weren't in the AP poll, but they actually looked impressive today against Ohio State. Kind of, despite what the score shows, if you actually watch this game, Maryland had them down early. They were up 10-0 on them. And Maryland, they look like they can compete in the Big Ten. We'll see what happens. They're probably still the 4th best team in the Big Ten, but better than a lot of other teams in other conferences. 15, Duke. A lot of this depends on their quarterback health. They almost beat Notre Dame last week, if you remember, and came down to the wire. But Duke can play. They've beaten Clemson, like I said, almost beat Notre Dame, so Duke, if they can get their quarterback back, they might be a top 10 team eventually. 14, I've got Notre Dame. I thought this would be a good game this week against Louisville, but I'm surprised they lost this game. Now, they do play USC next, so the schedule does not get any easier. But I was surprised they lost to Louisville, and pretty handily, too. They kind of started going for it on fourth down a little earlier than I would have expected. But the way they played against Ohio State, like I don't know, they looked pretty impressive to me in the Ohio State game, but this week not so much. 13, USC. That's why this poll's getting out a little later than usual because the USC game went to overtime, so I had to delay it. Almost lost to Arizona. Now, they're going to get everybody's best game, but they don't look as good as they did last year, in my opinion. Preseason, I had this team in the top 3, but they haven't looked at it yet this year, so we'll see what happens. And they may run the Pac-12 once they get there. You know, they're going to get everybody's best game, like I said, so they're going to have some close games, but they haven't looked like a playoff team yet, in my opinion. 12, North Carolina looked pretty good this week in Syracuse against Syracuse. Syracuse is a pretty solid team, and they kind of handled them. We'll see next week. I think they play Miami, I want to say, next week, so they'll have some stiff competition. And if Miami would have closed that game out, it would have been a top 15 matchup probably, but that's not happening now. 11 and 10, I've got Washington and Oregon. These two teams play next week. The winner should vault up a couple spots into the top 7, top 8 or so. These two teams really hadn't played anybody yet, so that's kind of why I got them holding back. But I think these two teams are pretty good, though. But with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised, like I said earlier, if not the USC, I'm sorry, if the Pac-12 kind of dissolves itself by the end of the year, if USC, Oregon, Washington, that's what I was getting at, if they all end up beating each other, and you can probably throw Utah in that mix, wouldn't be surprised if they all end up dropping, kind of 15 to 20 range. Number 9, Louisville. Moving way up this week, beat Notre Dame, cracking the top 10. They look pretty freaking good in that game, man. They dominated Notre Dame. They beat them by 20. It was a home game for Louisville, so that definitely helps. But hey, Louisville looks legit right now. We'll see. This may come back to bite me. I don't know. We'll see if they look legit. And they don't just have the toughest schedule, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're still in the top 10 at the end of the year. Number 8, Alabama. They struggled with A&M at first this week, but Jalen Milroe actually looked pretty good this week. So Alabama going to keep rising. They're going to win their side of the SEC, going to get a shot at Georgia. And the way it's playing out right now, that could be basically a college football playoff quarterfinal, like the winner gets in. 7, Penn State. They haven't really played anybody, but I'll be curious to see how they can play with Michigan and Ohio State when we get into Big Ten play and throw Maryland in the mix there. But Penn State, pretty solid team. Number 6, Texas. Played pretty bad today against Oklahoma, but almost won the game regardless. Oklahoma came out in the end. Texas, I don't know, playing soft prevent defense in the end and came back to bite them. But did beat Alabama earlier this year, so still going to give them props to that. Similar to what I just said with Alabama, though, this is shaping up to be a pretty awesome championship weekend once we get there further down the road. If Texas and Oklahoma can win out, that's another quarterfinal you're looking at. Winner gets in, and it's going to be nice. Number 5, Oklahoma. Oklahoma beat Texas this week. I've been skeptical on Oklahoma all year, but they proved me wrong today. They actually look pretty good. So I've got them vaulting way up. I think they jumped up about 10 spots for me this week. Hadn't played anybody till this game, but they looked the part. They look legit. And I wouldn't be surprised if they run the Big 12 to the championship. Big 12 championship. Number 4, Florida State. They struggled a little bit this week against Virginia Tech, but ended up, separating at the end. So Florida State got a couple quality wins already. They beat LSU, they beat Clemson, so hard to knock them. Number 3, Ohio State. Struggled with Maryland a little bit today, but like I said, I think Notre Dame's pretty good. At least they looked good in their game against Ohio State. Maybe Ohio State's not that good. I don't know. But number 3, Ohio State. I would have Florida State or Oklahoma above them, but Oklahoma, I need to see a little more from them. And Florida State just, I don't know, they don't look that good to me when I watch them. And also LSU's not helping them any by struggling. Number 2, we have Georgia. Georgia finally looked like Georgia. I thought about putting them in number 1 this week. I haven't yet, but they dominated Kentucky today. Looked like a number 1 team. And at number 1, I've got Michigan still. They've dominated every game they've had. They haven't really played anybody yet, but they haven't had a close game, so they've dominated every game. I don't know. it's going to be an interesting year. Like I said, we got a lot of games that are going to shape up and could have some nice Big 12 championship, SEC championship, Big 10 championship. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be a good year this year. But that's my ranking. Let me know your top 25, your top 10 down in the comment section. Like I said at the beginning of this video, like this video, subscribe down below. Till next time, AG out.